With me now is one half of our regular panel. Michael Kroger's not here today, but I am delighted to say the other half is here. Former Labor Minister, our Sky regular, Stephen Conroy. Stephen, the opposition leader Peter Dutton was scathing of the Prime Minister and of Tony Burke over their comments, Tony Burke's comments specifically, but the fact that the Prime Minister hasn't got unity within his cabinet on Israel. Privately, a few Labor people have been saying that the cabinet messages out of cabinet are not as unified as they should be. Is this something the PM has to watch?
Look, I think, firstly, Albo has been absolutely straightforward on this. He was asked, at the White House, what's your position? He said, I'm not on Hamas's side. So the government's position is very clear. They are backing Israel's right to exist. They're backing Israel's right to defend itself and to defend itself in whatever way it needs to. At the same time, I don't think it is suggesting that the cabinet messages are, as Peter Dutton says, all over the place. We don't forget, Peter Dutton a week ago was demanding Albo go to Israel, and then Simon Birmingham this morning saying, oh, well, perhaps Penny Wong should call. They are just not to be taken seriously when they're saying these things. I mean, Penny Wong is sensibly saying to a friend that, Israel will significantly have an international reputation hit if there are tens of thousands of civilian deaths in a ground war that goes on for a substantial period of time. That's just a statement of fact. That's a statement of fact from a friend, and friends give each other honest advice. Doesn't mean for a moment we're not supporting the right to defend themselves, the right to exist, the right to say, hey, they've declared war on us and we're now going to prosecute that war. So I think you've got to put aside Peter Dutton on this. He is in the cheap politicking phase at the moment. And for those in Labor, let's just be clear, for those in the Labor Party broadly, that Hamas are not committed to a two-state solution. Hamas walk the talk of wanting to exterminate the state of Israel. And their supporters in the streets, when they sing about wanting to go from the river to the sea, they are talking about extermination of the state of Israel, and it needs to be stood up to by every Labor person.
You look at the signatories to that letter that by Labor people like Phil Dalladakis, who you know well, a former Victorian Labor minister, among others, Tim Harcourt, well-known economist and professor, other Labor members who signed this thing saying that Labor and that they fully support Israel. This seemed to be a bit of a pushback against some other sentiments out of the Labor movement.
Well, there's always a mixed views, particularly in the Middle East. This is not a new issue for Labor to deal with. I've spent many years of my life having these arguments on the floor of National Conference, at the Victorian State Conference, in the parliamentary party. There are always mixed views. We all want to see a stable two-state solution that will ensure peace and stability for everybody in the Middle East. But Hamas, let's be very clear, they are a murderous criminal terrorists who declared a unilateral war and killed 1,300 people in unspeakable ways, and Israel have every right to react.
Stephen, there's no doubt about that. It's hard for anyone to disagree against that. Now, I just want to change our tone a bit. I want to ask you about some sport, because you are the chair. For any viewers who might not be aware, over the last couple of months, you were made the chair of the Australian A-Leagues, the football federation. Now, Football Australia is going to make an announcement the next 10 minutes, maybe a bit over that, whether or not they're going to lodge an expression of interest to host the 2034 World Cup. What did you make of FIFA's timing on all of this? With the announcement, Saudi saying immediately they're going to bid for it.
Well, look, I mean, FIFA promised that they wouldn't do a stitch-up of basically two World Cups at the same time. Again, that 1822 deal, Russia-Qatar, that was mired in corruption. And they promised they wouldn't do it again. So they announced the successful 28 bidder. And then in the same breath announced you've got 28 days to bid. This is a complete stitch-up. Australia have been dudded yet again. We've just run the most successful Women's World Cup in history. And you could see by the response in the Australian community, but the organisation, it was an absolute hats off to Football Australia for the work that they did. And, we've just been stitched up. I'd be shocked, I don't have any idea what's in the announcement, but I'd be shocked if they bother when the rules have been changed for the bidding just to help the Saudi Arabians. Saudis have put clearly the fix in with a number of the Asian federations, and Australia have just been dudded again. It's quite shameful by FIFA to behave this way, and it will not surprise me at all if Football Australia just say, look, they can't say this publicly, I'll say it for them. The fix has been put in for Saudi, and there's no point in us bidding.
Stephen Conroy, thank you. And James Johnson, the CEO of Football Australia, will join us in the next half hour. Appreciate that.
No worries.